And welcome back, everybody, to the Week in Horror. Covering March 1st through March 7th. I want to thank everybody so much for joining us. With me today is Eugene.
What's up, everybody?
And making her Week in Horror host debut, Danielle.
Hey guys, what's going on?
Not much. So glad that you're here.
I'm glad to be here also.
Yes. So, as everybody, pretty much what our listeners don't know is Alex is on vacation this week, and we needed somebody to step up and, I guess he didn't really have big shoes to fill. But,
just a pair of shoes.
But to step up and bring a new kind of perspective into. And Danielle, you work in the industry. So tell our listeners about what you do.
So I'm actually a professional makeup artist, self-trained. I've done a lot of photo shoots. I've worked for MAC for about 3 years. And then I also ran a couple of cosmetic lines. And then also I've worked on a music video, and I'm starting to do a little bit more of FX makeup. So I'm getting more involved with trying to do that and trying to get more into the movies.
Badass. So when we're doing like our slasher films, the next one we have coming up, and we need blood and guts and stuff like that, you're the person to call.
Oh, for sure.
She's gonna make our monsters look good. That makes me wonder, because I actually have a script that I haven't written about, that I wrote a long time ago when I was still in college, and I've tried for years to get it done, and I just could never find financing like this. But I have a monster in that, and it's like this underground, nasty Lovecraftian style, eating people motherfucker. And I was so upset because my initial design, because I wrote this thing before The Descent came out, and then I watched the movie The Descent, and I was like, fuck, they stole my goddamn monster.
Oh.
I was so upset, and I was like, the crawlers, they were exactly what I was envisioning, like the subterranean human thing. And I was like, no, they fucking stole my shit. And so I needed to change it. So I would need to change it if I ever actually shot this fucking movie, which I doubt that I ever will, but it would be super cool. But
we'll see. Now you know that the idea works.
Exactly. Yes. It's exactly what another director told me one time. Well, at least you had a good idea.
That movie was so eerie. It was awesome how freaky and scary that movie was, because it was all dark. It's pitch black.
It's true. It's so claustrophobic because everything is so confined and small and everything like that. And I just read an article about a guy who he was going through exploring some caves, and he got stuck and died.
Oh, I read about that story. Yeah, and they left his body in there and sealed up the cave because they couldn't get it out.
So he's still down there to this day.
Ugh.
God, well, we took a dark turn on a horror podcast.
Claustrophobia.
We're not even 2 minutes in, man. What are you doing? People will be like, what the fuck? Now I'm depressed.
Back to happy Bloods and Good. Yeah.
But that means I'd have to go back, and I would have to. I would have to go back and redesign my monster, so it doesn't look like I'm ripping off The Descent, even though they ripped me off, motherfuckers. But instead of the subject, so I would go to you, and you would help to design the changes that I would need as far as doing some kind of subterranean, bringing something new to the game and something of that nature. So
for sure,
and it's.
Awesome.
The process has always fascinated me, because you see some of these iconic monster, say the makeup on Freddy Krueger or something like that, and it's somebody designed that, and not only did they have to draw it out, somebody had to figure out how to actually put that on, and not just put it on, but you have to make it work for all your scenes. So if you have somebody running, you have to make sure the makeup works
for sure,
so the character can run
or
move around,
and that deals with using a lot of waterproof products and just spraying the shit with a sealer, a Ben Nye sealer would probably do the trick for that. But it's just a lot of preparation and just making sure that you're using the right materials and latex, and I mean shit, you can even use cornflakes.
Damn, sounds delicious.
Which has been used before.
And sometimes And sometimes the contribution is as simple as James Cameron sitting on a plane with Stan Winston saying, "Hey, that monster needs some mandibles." And then we get the Predator.
Yeah, but you know what? Terminator's my favorite. Terminator 2 is my favorite.
Which,
Oh, the T-1000 in that movie is just amazing.
that movie still fucking holds up.
I mean, it's amazing.
It really does.
How well the obviously the effects of the Terminator, pieces of Arnie blowing off and shit like this. And I always thought that was cool as shit.
And see, nobody can ever play Terminator like Arnold can. It's impossible. Like,
yeah, in Dark Fate, the guy who was the Rev 9. For the life of me, his name escapes me. He's been acting for a while, but he's relatively new by comparison, and I liked him better. I think what did I see him in for? What was he? I think he was Ghost Rider in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had a Ghost Rider.
I think it's the same. Oh yes, he's a Ghost Rider.
Oh, I didn't know.
It was it was, dude, and I thought it was gonna be shit for a while, and I was like, "Fuck no!" I started watching. I was like, "Okay, I gotta give this a shot." They're going Ghost Rider, and I don't know, man. This may blow. Well, at least it's not Nicolas Cage. But
terrible.
Sorry. So we love Nick here. We really do. Nick will never listen to my podcast, so we can talk shit about Nick. But we do love him, especially like Color Out of Space, Mandy, shit like that. He, out of all of the swings and misses, he does have some home runs.
He really does, kind of thing. One day we'll get him on the podcast. One day.
Oh, don't even tease me.
Be like next month. Next month, our guest, Nicolas Cage.
So I hear you're talking about me on your podcast. That's high praise.
Thank you so much. I'm like, Nick Cage, what are you doing at my house?
Nick, what are you doing here? Well, I thought this was another movie to star.
Oh my god.
Let me give me 5 minutes. Let me write a script.
What was that? What was that shit? What was that one thing I heard one time? It was fucking, and it was Sandberg was doing that impression of him. He was like, my objective is to star in 100% of all Hollywood movies. I'm up to a comfortable 90% so far.
Oh my god, your impersonation of him is crazy.
Who the hell? Yes, Gabriel Luna. Gabriel Luna, I think, that's him. He was also the Rev 9 in Terminator Dark Fate. And he was fucking the shit. Fucking the shit. That's probably a
yeah, I don't know that.
He was awesome. I was saying, he was awesome. He was awesome as fuck as Ghost Rider. They could not have done it better, because I'm not a giant fan. I'm more of a Johnny Blaze fan. I'm not really the Reyes fan. But he was phenomenal in that. So yeah, highly recommend. Although this is a horror podcast, not a comic book podcast. But yes, Gabriel Luna was the shit, and highly recommend. Watch him in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Don't watch him in Dark Fate. Dark Fate was kind of crap.
Yeah.
So, but yes, as far as effects go and everything, yes, it's a wide world, and I don't think the people who are in it, it's a lifetime thing. I've never heard anybody, they get into it. I've never heard anybody say this sucks, and then they just bounce out. I mean, you're going into the field with the likes, where Stan Winston and Rick Baker and there's dozens we could probably talk about, but it's awesome to get into there. Plus, to be able to create monsters and design shit and just coming up with weird shit all the time. That's fucking awesome. That's amazing. I wish I had that kind of imagination.
I would really want to get into doing the molds and stuff and making masks, but that's a whole different level.
Actually, I should say it's more like you're the person who brings it to life. The director comes up with it, or the writer or whatever comes up with the idea and is like, "Yay, I have this idea. How do I do this?"
Right.
We call Danielle.
Exactly.
And Danielle brings it to life.
Yep.
In her studio, she says, "This is how we're going to make this happen."
For sure.
Here you go.
Awesome.
All right.
Eugene, do you have anything this week, or has it been quiet for you? I know that everything's been busy for all of our listeners right now. Eugene is currently working on directing a short film that I am assisting him with, shooting this upcoming weekend. And I know that he's been just swamped, pulling double duty, working on the podcast, working on that. How's everything going on that?
It's really cool. So we just got the final few crew members, and like in a couple of days we're going in. We're going to pre-light everything, and I just actually had a department head meeting. So we got like the production designer, and of course JL was there, and we got our cinematographer there, and we all chatted it out and all sorts of kind of stuff. And I am super excited. Filmmaking is always like, it's so stressful and it's a lot of work, and you do all this pre-pro, and then you on the day of, and it's so stressful and you do a lot of work, but then like once it's in the can and you have it put together, like, that was awesome, it's amazing, I want to do it again. And then it starts all over again.
And that is how we fall into the trap as filmmakers.
Exactly. Just when you're like, like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. Fuck this film shit. And then you see your product like, man, that came out really good. I should do another one.
Yes, it is a lot of fun. I can't wait to get back on set again, even though, and in a role I'm not usually in, because I'm either usually behind the camera, or I'm directing, or I've written it, or I'm in front of the camera. So I'm getting to kind of spread my wings in a new area, which is really, really neat. In other words, taking orders on the set, and I've never done that before. So this would be a good test for me. See if I can actually do this.
It's going to be a lot of fun, and you know what? It's a horror movie. It's going to be creepy. Right, we got some great effects that are going to be in it. So after the meeting, talking with the production designer, so hopefully you'll see it out there. Maybe Sundance, something like that. Slam Dance, maybe.
Awesome.
That'd be cool as shit. Awesome. All right. Well, let us get this week started. So Eugene, what are you kicking us off with first?
All right. So we're actually starting off with a sequel, right, of a kind of a little bit lesser known trilogy, right? And so this one came out March 2nd, 1999, and it is Basket Case 2.
Oh, Lord.
Yes.
Dude, these fucking movies.
So it's, directed by Frank Henenlotter, if I pronounced that.
Holy shit, you got that right.
Yes, that's
You
it.
fucking
I'm
nailed
done.
it. You
I'm out of the
nailed it.
podcast. That's it.
That's it. Credits. We're done.
That's it.
We're done.
Roll it.
Roll music.
I don't even want to attempt to say his name again at all. I got it once. That's it, right? And so directed by him, right? Also written by him, starring Frank Van Entelkisk, Kevin Van Entelkisk. If I mess it up, I'm so sorry. Annie Ross.
I believe that's Kevin Van Hentenryck.
Kevin Van Hentelrick, thank you. Also starring Annie Ross, Catherine Measle, and Heather Rattray. Kind of thing.
Interesting.
And yes,
Names
interesting assortment of names.
Right.
Yeah.
I bet that's what he casted on.
He probably did. He's like, how do I make the credits the most exotic ones out there?
Knowing Henenlotter, that's probably it.
And so it's a horror comedy, which, we don't get a chance to do too many of those, right? Kind of thing like that. And, basically you have Dune and his mutant brother, and they take it to a secret place where full of freaks and journalists and all this other kind of stuff. And it's about what happens. And some people die.
And some people just die.
And then some people die.
So for our listeners, to break it down, if you haven't seen the first film, there's a guy named Dwayne. The character's name is Dwayne, and Dwayne has a mutated, formerly conjoined twin. That when they separated him, the two of them are still he's still alive. Like he lived, like the conjoined twin lived. He's like this mutated glob with like arms and a face and shit, and it's fucking weird. And pretty much the hijinks they get into. Now the first film was a legit straight horror film, like legit. But this one, they started injecting more comedy into it. But in this one, they're on the run, and they wind up shacking up with like this secret commune of other freaks and other
Granny Ruth.
And exactly. And so then of course more hijinks ensue. Too more comedic effect and like that. And so I think he was just Handelauder was just kind of spitballing when he was creating like this. But I have to admit, the character of Belial is wow, making that thing. What the fuck?
Yeah, especially it being carried in a basket. a little funky. I mean, but
basket case. I see what you did there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little weird. The thing looks like a big pile of God knows what. I mean, it's like it just looks like a big blob, and then the eyes are like bright, like that weird yellow. Like I don't know, maybe they used like a lamp inside of the thing. I have no idea.
Oh, that's interesting. I wouldn't have thought
about that either.
I'm sitting here thinking about it in a post production thought, but no, as a practical effect, yeah, because a lot of the shit was practical, and then I know that they used a puppet on one point.
Yep.
And I think they used stop motion in some segments.
That I don't know. This was the first time me watching this, but those teeth. I mean, the way those teeth are so spread out, it's like, what?
Yeah, which is, I mean, that must be hard to do because, it's one thing you think about like vampire teeth. So, it's like, oh, you put like a couple of fangs on and stuff like that. But when you really get like the spread out teeth, the really like disformed teeth, that has to be very difficult, like a mouthpiece or something like that to make that.
Oh, for sure. It's got to be a mouthpiece that was, made to fit in there and to move. Like, I'm sure it's made from mechanics with everything. I think this has a lot to do with, like molding and prosthetics, but I think a lot of it has to do with being mechanical, honestly.
The one thing I never understood is how Belial was able to like launch himself at people, because he has no legs, he has no body.
Yeah, I don't.
So he's like, but he could like launch himself at people
like a catapult,
and he'd like exactly just like so. There's some sort of supernatural ability there to like telekinetically jump at people. I'm not sure how he did it because he literally is like a melted torso with arms and a face.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all he is.
And that maybe he like springs himself with his like his arm.
I'm thinking from an anatomical standpoint. It's like that also brings another question. What the fuck is going on in that thing anatomically? I don't know if I want to go in that direction.
Like, how does he use the bathroom? Like, how?
Yeah. It's pretty cheesy. It's pretty cheesy looking.
It's wild. It's wild and weird. Now I know that the first film was the first basket case was really fucking dark, and that's not just a comment on the lighting because it was really dark, but it was a very very dark and very very straight horror film, and I think the fact that they shot it on 16 millimeter and then fucked with the aspect ratio in post and just kind of displays it gave it a real grindhouse feel. And there was some dark shit in there, like the brother tries to rape somebody and then strangling everybody all over the place, and it's all fucking twisted and weird. But the second one, it seems to follow the formula, and this is kind of what I want to ask y'all about, is we all recognize the formula of horror, whereas you'll get a straight horror film. Then maybe the next one will be horror, but not as extreme. Then they start injecting comedy into it. So I think the best example of this is like Sam Raimi's Evil Dead series. Okay, so Evil Dead, straight horror film. There was nothing comedic about that. Mm-hmm. Okay, chopping a girlfriend's head off, sticking a head in the vice and shit like that, and then tree rape and shit like that. There was nothing comedic about the way Raimi
yeah, but
shot
now
that.
we kind of watch that film now and we kind of look at the funny aspects of it because it was still kind of cheesy. Even though it's a classic film, but it was just great because now you look at it and you kind of are like, man, I could smoke and watch this movie and just laugh.
and I think you could. I think more so with Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
Especially, when Bruce Campbell's like laughing at the camera and everything's laughing in the fucking cabin and like the deer head is laughing and shit like that, and which is just a fucking insane scene. But they start injecting comedy into it because I think Evil Dead's the best example because Evil Dead's straight horror. Evil Dead 2, definitely a horror comedy.
For sure.
much more funnier moments, and then Army of Darkness, and then of course Army of Darkness.
Oh, but what about the remake of Evil Dead? Was amazing.
Okay. Yes, and it was, and it was
scary,
fucking brilliant
as fuck.
That I've said many times in this podcast that those first 5 minutes left my jaw on the floor.
So good.
My God, the FX, like everything in that movie was just stunning.
And you say, "Oh, this is such an awesome moment." I'm going to interject. I'm totally flying off topic here for a brief moment. Eventually, we're going to go visual with this podcast, and that's what I want to do. Is I want us to have everybody together around a table and actually go visual, and so we can do YouTube content and actually put videos out there. But I want, and I'm going to kind of spoil this. Around the table, basically in the room that we're in, I want green screens, like all around where the camera's looking. So I want the walls behind everybody to be green screened, where then we can like show clips or show images of those on the green screens behind us.
Yes.
So,
awesome.
And we'll be and so our viewers will be able to see shit like that. And because I know as far as visual media, you can do like short clips, and as long as there's no audio or something like this, I know there are rules behind that, but if that's eventually what I want to do. It's very similar to other content creators where they'll play clips from movies, but we'll do it, but it will be like just in the background where people can see it, and we'll just be talking about it and shit like that. So, and then I think that will help with some of the subject matter that we bring up, is we can throw it. It'll be up on the screen and be like, we can laugh at it, and everybody will see it. So, that's one thing I hope to do eventually.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, just thinking about that and that formula, and it seems to be the Hollywood kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say design or intention or whatever to keep selling horror films, but even like Nightmare on Elm Street, they did the same thing. Freddy got progressively funny. Okay? Now, Friday the 13th didn't do the same. Friday the 13th, the kills got more elaborate and, kind of improvisational.
Right.
What new thing can Jason kill somebody with? Oh, a party horn. Okay. And they just like whatever the fucker can grab. Okay. Although nothing will ever top the sleeper. That's just personal favorite. So, is this something I want to from your guys' take and what you've seen in the past? Is this am I seeing something that's there, or am I just kind of assuming? What do you think?
Because I agree, because if you look at the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series, right, you got the first one, and the first one is straight horror, and you got the the fucked up dinner scene and all the other kind of stuff, right, when trying to smash her head with the hammer and all that kind of stuff. But you take that and then you go to Texas Chainsaw, like the Next Generation with Matthew McConaughey kind of thing. No one can tell me they tried to be scary in that movie. All right. Renee Zellweger like running through the woods and all this other kind of stuff and chasing her like a tow truck kind of thing.
God damn, 2 fucking Oscar winners right there.
Yeah. And so I think you actually like onto something about that. But it's like, why? When you take the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right, which is awesome and is iconic in what it did for the horror films, the horror genre as a whole, and then it's like, okay, well, this worked, but we're going to try this now. Why not just stay with the original idea?
Right.
Yeah. And then eventually, kind of the tail end of that is eventually they will swing back to straight horror. So we saw that in Texas Chainsaw Massacre when they brought the remake back. So there was like virtually no comedy. That in fact the first 10 minutes of the film, you had like a chick blow the back of her head out in the van. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that went back to straight horror. And then the same thing with Nightmare on Elm Street when Jackie Earle Haley took over the role. Went back straight horror, tried to drop the comedy, and obviously, I'm sorry, Jackie, he's no Freddy. But they did the same thing there. Same thing with the Evil Dead. You mentioned Evil Dead, Danielle. The remake, that was legit.
Yes. That's one of the best remakes.
There was no comedy in that. One of the best reboot, sequel,
whatever they want to call it. Yeah,
but it was amazing. And then the same thing with Child's Play, with the Child's Play series, because that was going way off the rails with Bride of Chucky, Seed of Chucky. and that was just a complete farce. And then Curse of Chucky came back around.
You guys are forgetting about Freddy versus Jason, which I don't think anybody gives that movie enough credit. I think that movie's great.
I love that movie, but I don't give Ronnie Wu fucking credit, because that motherfucker had no business being behind that goddamn camera and had no business casting that fucking thing, because as was seen in interviews, Ronnie Wu didn't know shit about either one of the franchises and didn't know what the fuck he was doing.
Yeah.
So I can't really blame him, but I blame fucking New Line for that bullshit.
I still like the movie. I can't speak on the director's aspect of everything, but I thought that movie's pretty entertaining. So.
Oh, it absolutely is. And I was like almost on my feet, the moment that Freddy wakes up and they pull Freddy into reality and Jason Voorhees is there, and I'm like, fuck yes. It's still a better fight than Batman v Superman.
Yo, that's a low bar. Okay. That's a really, really low bar.
Low fruit, low hanging fruit. Don't do that. But anyway, I fucking love that film. I do. I enjoy it. It is an absolute guilty pleasure. I love seeing Jason kick the shit out of him, even though I was pissed that it wasn't Kane Hodder. And we can have this discussion. This whole podcast could be on that. That it should have been Kane versus Robert. That should have been the movie. But we got this. And then I think what pissed me off the most was that goddamn interview with Kurzinger. When he's standing there saying, he was talking to Ronnie about Jason Voorhees, and Ronnie had never seen a Friday the 13th movie, ever.
What?
All he knew was what people had told him. All he knew was that Jason was big, he was strong, and he lumbered around and killed people. So, Kurzinger took it as, so he's like Frankenstein. So he went at the movie, he went at the character like Frankenstein's monster. That's why we get this lumbering, Jason with no fucking emotion, just, whatever. And that's why that was his interpretation, and the director didn't stop him, and nobody stopped him.
Well, because the director didn't know.
Exactly. Okay, and then, of course, what's he going to do? Tell Robert Englund how to play the role? He's played, what is this, this would be the 6th, 7th, 8th time he's played it? So, no, he's not going to tell Robert what to do. Robert knows who Freddy is. So he'll run with that, and that's why we got what we got. I was more pissed about behind the scenes. Plus, it should have been Kane. It was going to be Kane. And the fact that Ronnie blames New Line for leaving Kane out, and New Line blames Ronnie for leaving Kane out.
Oh, they're pointing fingers at each other. Oh,
yeah, everybody, and it was like okay, New Line was blaming, or I think it was New Line was blaming the producers, okay, like the actual producers on the set, and then the producers were blaming Ronnie, and Ronnie was blaming New Line. It was this fucking ridiculous, go around as to who's to blame for Kane Hodder not being in this film. But we do know
this is what I bet
that it was.
This is what I bet that happened, though, right? I bet they're like, okay, all right, go ahead, call up Robert Englund and call up Kane Hodder, and then somebody's like, oh yeah, blah 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 blah, right? And then somebody forgot to call him, right? And so
there was something I was supposed to do today.
So they're like, okay, we're shooting tomorrow. All right, we got the call times and everything out there. And some production assistant was like, oh shit.
Oh.
See, and all we know for certain, and what Kane has said, is that one of the producers sent him a letter or sent him an email or something like this. But anyway, contacted him via letter email stating basically that they would be going with another actor, and it was out of the blue because Kane had been fighting for this movie to be made for a long time. He was like, this movie needs to be made, and he was pushing. He campaigned for it. He pushed it. Finally, they were going to do it, and he got left out at almost the last moment.
And you know what? Kane Hodder is such a nice guy. Like, I've met him at Frightmare, and he amazing. Literally sat there and talked to me for at least 30 minutes about what happened with him being burnt all over his body. And I can't remember the whole story, but it was just he was just such a nice guy, and he took a picture with me, and he was just super cool to talk with.
He choked me out, right?
Okay. Well.
Okay.
That's a joke, not like...
Some context to that. Kane Hodder used to if you requested, if you asked, he used to like choke people out.
For sure.
Okay, he used to choke out his fans. He stopped doing that when somebody passed out and tried to sue him.
Oh my God.
Yeah, someone tried to sue him.
It takes one person,
like, yeah,
do
do me. And some litigious motherfucker was like, yeah, do me. Okay, now I'm going to fucking sue you because you hurt me. The dude is, you see how the arms are bigger than my fucking head. And I got a 20-pound melon up here. Okay? And so I was like, so he was like, yeah, he's like, and so I heard about this. I was like, oh, he's got to do it to me. So like, I had my friend videotape me saying, I am allowing Kane Hodder to strangle me of my own volition. This is my choice. Bring it on. And he wrapped those fucking banana hands around my neck. Okay, and I'm not a small dude, and that cat picked me up off my toes.
Oh, I can, for sure. Like, he's a big dude.
The dude's a beast.
That's what makes those movies even more terrifying now, because now you know like his size and his strength, and it's like, yeah, he really could just crush my head in his hands.
Yep.
Dude, could you fucking imagine? Okay, could you fucking imagine? There's that story that he likes to tell when he was on the set of of New Blood. Okay, and the cast area was set a bit a ways away from the set, and so you actually had to like cross through this forested area to get to the cast area where everybody was chilling out, and he was in full makeup, full costume, okay, mask on and everything, walking through the woods. This is not recording like this, just walking through the woods, going to the cast area, just do his thing, and came across some guy, just in the middle of it was like the middle of the night. And here he is, full Jason getup, strolling through the fucking woods and runs into some stranger who's not a part of the movie, has no fucking clue what's going on. And Kane said that dude took one look at him and vanished.
I would totally do something like that to people. That's hilarious.
Oh man, that is awesome. That is awesome.
But he's that's somebody I would love to have on this fucking show. I would love to sit around and shoot the shit about horror movies with fucking Kane Hodder. That would be, I mean, maybe one day. We got a really sweet guest coming on. I don't want to spoil it yet. We got a really cool guest coming on for March. Before this, we had Billy Pond, but hopefully we'll get up there. Well, fuck, you been sitting around talking with Kane Hodder? Fuck,
badass.
Right?
So badass. Oh my god.
Very cool.
Now, I know that we went and, we've talked about, like the kind of the transitions and kind of thing like that, and how, the series get funny and they get like serious again kind of thing, or they get rebooted or remake. So I want to ask the audience, going back to Basket Case, does it need a remake or a reboot or something like that? We got the original 3 that came out like late 80s, early 90s kind of thing.
Yep.
I think they're done. I think they're done at this point.
But in the era of bad, of some bad cheesy movies and stuff like that are really taking off now, maybe. I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no. I'm just saying, to our listeners, let us know in the comment below.
You know what? I say yes, but they have to stay practical. Belial cannot be CGI. It's got to be in-your-face practical effects, so the actors can actually react to this blob thing jumping out of a basket and eating their face. It's got to be practical effects. If they CGI that bullshit, no.
It won't work. It won't work at all. At all whatsoever. So, all right, Danielle, what do we got next?
So we have a pretty cool movie that I actually just started watching. I got into it. It's called Absentia. I think that's how I say it properly. It came out March 3rd of 2011. It is written and directed by Mike Flanagan. The cast members include Catherine Parker, Courtney Bell, Dave Levine, and Dustin Gordon. So basically what this movie is essentially about is Trisha's husband, Daniel, basically has been missing for 7 years. And her younger sister, Callie, basically comes to live with her and is pressuring her, to declare him dead because, he's not coming back. And then as Trisha sifts through like the wreckage and tries to move on with her life, Callie finds herself drawn to an ominous tunnel near their house. And as she begins to link it into other mysterious disappearance, she starts getting closer to finding out what's going on.
Ah,
Yes.
yes.
I'm leaving it kind of open to be
Awesome
mysterious.
film. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Definitely don't spoil it.
I think we get. I think we give like a 5-year moratorium on it for spoilers. Like if it's older than 5 years. No, this is 2011. Now this is a nice, unique one. A nice, fun, very, very mature, very smart independent horror film. And I don't want to spoil it for anybody to see it because it's got a really, really slick little setup.
Yeah, that's how I like to do it. If I want somebody to actually go watch it, then I won't spoil it at all. If it's something where it's like, listen, if you want to watch it, but it's whatever, then I'll tell them the ending.
And there's some shit horror movies out there we could
For
spoil.
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, but one thing I did, because I caught this one by chance. I think it was like in 2012 is when I saw it, because it pretty much, Absentia ran the festival circuit and won a ton of awards. I think this was Mike Flanagan's first feature film. He'd done a bunch of shorts previously, but it was his first feature film, and now, I mean, his career is he just skyrocketed. He just recently directed Doctor Sleep. So in 9 years, he went from Absentia to Doctor Sleep. The dude is just fucking amazing. He and his wife do kind of a tag team thing. She writes, he directs. They did Hush, that was on Netflix. Awesome. We've talked about the movie before. It's fucking amazing. She plays his wife plays a deaf woman who's being stalked by a serial killer that she can't hear, obviously, because she's deaf. But just the cinematography in that, and capturing her as a deaf woman, and how she handles, basically how she manages her environment versus a predator who obviously she has a huge weakness against, because he's an ambush predator. So it's a wild film. It's really, really cool, really, really smart. But he's a fantastic fucking director, and I loved Absentia because of its take on, how to say this without spoiling too much. It's very much like folk tales from early colonial days and shit like that. It's a horror take on like the folk tales that have through oral tradition have been passed down over the years. Okay, really, really cool, and it reminds me of a book I read about Grimm's fairy tales, and how the inspirations behind those tales are actually some really horrific shit.
Yeah, they when a lot of those stories were created, you think back and say colonial times, that was a rough time period to live in. When you have the land is hostile, you got Native Americans that can be hostile, and you have so many things working against you. Obviously, a lot of the stories you come up with aren't going to be like rainbows and unicorns kind of thing. When most people were dead by the time they're 30. That time period. So yeah,
I think a lot of this stuff came out of Germany, German folklore, which pretty much filtered out. You went through France, went through England, and kind of just inspired other stuff. And of course, the puritanical belief systems that were brought over here to America then inspired their own stuff, because the old stories that were taken from other countries were then adjusted to the new American belief or the American lifestyle. And so we get these tales that we now tell children, and they're nice, they're Aesop's fables, they have nice morals and shit like this. But some of this stuff has some really, really scary background, and that's what I like. What Flanagan did with this is he took that folk story and gave it a real horror twist. And I don't want to spoil it, but because it'll the way he shot it was so brilliant, and how he made made the film terrifying.
Oh, it's brilliant. Basically, his use of shadows in it. And, one of the things that, we talk about with filmmaking is, what's the hardest thing to do on a film set? It's to light it. That is, you want to talk about where you spend most of your time. It may take you 2 hours to properly light a shot, kind of thing. And, a lot of people don't know that, or a lot of people go, oh, well, it's just simple. You just put a light here and here and here. It's like, no, you create different types of atmosphere because lighting conveys so much. What do you show the audience? What do you hide from the audience? And
that whole living room scene?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm like, right off the bat, like the scene that stuck out to me is her being in the tunnel.
Okay,
And the thing about it is because you take something like in terms of lighting wise, you take something that's like a tunnel, and you think that wouldn't be hard to do, kind of thing. But creating those dark spots in comparison to those light spots, and to actually strategically place those out, kind of thing, that takes a lot of planning, a lot of forethought to get that, a lot of experimenting, because unlike a lot of other things like, a camera, you can, point a camera at whatever, you can move a camera however you want, but light obeys the laws of physics and there's nothing you can do to change that. Like there's just, light goes where light's going to go, and you have to point it and contain it and flood it and spot it and flag it and silk it and all this other kind of stuff to get to sort of things, to get to kind of what you want to show, kind of thing. And the way he covers things up, the way he keeps things like in the shadows, the way he keeps, this is why his career has taken the trajectory that it has. Because he pays attention to the little bit of detail. And I mean, Hush, kind of thing like that, where, yeah, sure, it's in the woods and stuff like that. It's, nighttime and everything like that, like, most horror films are. But even then, he's able to hide when the killer's in the house, kind of thing. And to the point where you feel the fact that she doesn't know that he's there, kind of thing. And he just plays with these little details. And, a lot of his early stuff, he used nothing but skeleton crews, but he still plays with that. The little details that up-and-coming filmmakers may not think is very important.
For sure.
He plays really well. Yeah, he definitely plays really well on what you don't know is going on around you.
Yes.
That you may have heard something or like that, but you either can't see it or you can't hear it, or you're aware of something, but you don't know what it is or how close it is. It reminds me of that. There was that viral video that just went around a little while recently about that girl who was snowboarding. She's listening to her earbuds, and she's just, she's filming herself with a selfie stick. She's like, yeah, I'm going snowboarding, like that. And she's just, getting ready to go. And there's a bear chasing her.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That she's unaware of. Okay, and so several times the selfie of the camera comes around and catches the bear behind her, like chasing her, and eventually she hits a downhill and she picks up speed and she obviously gets away. The bear just gives up the chase, but she had no idea the fucking thing was there,
and that
no clue whatsoever. So he played that. I love the living room shot because it's kind of the same thing. You knew something was going on. Something is there, okay, but there was like 80% of that shot was pitch black.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And the thing is like, we like to sit there and think like, oh, well, nobody could come up close to me. I would, hear them coming, or I would feel their presence, or all this other kind of stuff. Like, so many people go, oh, no, there's no way you can sneak up on, something like that. And then you'll be surprised at what people miss that's around them every day. And, I saw a video when I was going through driver's ed, and it was like, a train can hit you, you not even know it, because you wouldn't like pay attention that was coming. Like, well, how would you miss a train? And it did a little video example where it showed a train coming at the camera, and you're like, I see this. And then another train comes up from behind the camera and catches you completely off guard, and everybody in the class jumped. And it's like, you just missed a train. So it's like, yeah, somebody in the right circumstance, somebody can sneak up on you. Somebody can be in your house, and you would have no idea.
For sure. You got to be a damn ninja, though.
Yeah.
Oh, don't fuck with me, dude, because I'm in my office with my door closed. And
right? You made me kind of cringe a little bit. I was like, is there somebody maybe in the house? Like, now I have to go look.
Alex often does the same thing, because especially we were talking about The Grudge.
Oh my god!
And so we got into it. And Alex is like looking around his room, like, what's behind me? But yeah, I think it was an incredibly smart, very, very slick independent horror film, and I strongly recommend it. I know it's available on streaming pretty much any streaming device, but this is one for the collection. If you collect horror. Mike Flanagan was on. I mean, the guy's been on his A game with. I don't think he's had a flub yet. The dude's fantastic. Definitely give him a chance. And see Absentia.
So we need to ask the audience if they think this is more of a fairy tale horror. What do you guys think?
you obviously you can see the fairy tale influences, but I wouldn't necessarily full say a fairy tale horror kind of thing. But you can definitely see where he gets his influences from.
I think it draws from it. I don't think I don't think it immediately says that this is we took a fairy tale and that this is the horror. I think he took inspiration from that and kind of said, yeah, we have these stories that are kind of loosely based, or because we don't really think about them because they're so old. And it's like, here's the terrifying reality behind it, that may have been lost in translation along the way in the game of telephone, like that. But you can definitely see the inspirations behind it. And I think it was. I can see it.
All right. Well, what do we got next?
Okay, man, we are going way back in the way back machine, because this bad boy turns 98 years old. This film is almost 100 years old. Released March 4th, 1922, and I am talking about the first vampire flick ever made, Nosferatu, a symphony of horror.
I love this movie.
I love vampires in general, honestly. It's my favorite. Vampires in general are just amazing.
Hell yes. Now, Nosferatu was directed by F.W. Murnau, okay? And it was a screenplay by Henrik Galeen, which was based on Bram Stoker's Dracula. So everybody's familiar with the Mad Irishman's novel. But this was legitimately the first adaptation ever made of that, the first vampire film ever put to screen. So, but technically an unauthorized adaptation. And this starred the legendary Max Schreck as Count Orlok himself, with Gustav van Wangenheim, Greta Schroeder, Alexander Granach, and Ruth Landshoff all starred in this. An amazing film, required viewing, I think, for anybody who digs horror. It's just to see where the genre came from, and obviously to see the first vampire film ever put on screen, and the things that they did, how they the visual effects and the camera tricks and the camera work that they did then to create the effects that they did, and of course creating Count Orlok and making the vampire.
Yeah, so this was actually, as I was sitting there, I was looking at it and, reading some behind the scenes stuff about it, kind of thing like that. And he actually had the idea of shooting a vampire film when in 1916, right, a Siberian farmer, right, that he just ran into just out in Siberia, just out there. And the farmer was like, by the way, I'm a vampire. Which, first of all, you think,
okay.
Yeah, 1916, right? So, you think it's more rural farm area kind of thing like that. Then it's Siberia, so it's like middle of nowhere. And that thing kind of stuck in his head, right? Now, obviously, with, winter 1916, you got like some World War I and stuff like that going on. So he wasn't able to like make it right off the bat kind of thing. And then he started taking stuff from Bram Stoker's Dracula to make in his film. Now, he originally wanted to do an adaptation of Dracula. Like, it was supposed to be, the original idea was supposed to be just, this is what I'm going to do Dracula. He took that moment, I'm going to make a vampire, you have Dracula, we put it together, and they just could never get the rights to it. I think it's Bram Stoker's, like, widow or something like that. It's either widow or one of his kids that were just like, no, it's just not going to happen about it kind of thing. But one of the things when they were creating the Count is they're trying to, and it's one of the things we get into. It's difficult when you watch older films, is you have to remember that it's a different time period than it is today. And back then in Europe, especially shortly after World War I, there was a lot of anti-Semitism, and so people started drawing these ghouls, and these were, this is the Jewish problem and stuff like that they believed in. So he actually took inspiration from that to create and design Count Orlok kind of thing about it. So
I remember in history class some of the propaganda sheets that were created by various individuals. They had almost a rat-like features that they ascribed to Jewish people, to denigrate them and do things. And now seeing Count Orlok now and kind of the imagery, the teeth, the face, the kind of pointed face like that. Yeah, you can see that kind of translates.
Yeah, kind of thing. And, you have to keep in mind at that time period, like I said, it's different. Obviously, don't have those beliefs are wrong and all that stuff. We know that today, kind of thing. But at the time, he wanted to create something scary. And in that time period, they call, the Jewish problem, that was scary. That was scary to them. But one thing that is amazing about this film is the fact that just as a whole, it holds up. There are jump scares in this movie that still get me. It's a silent film. No stinger, no like a bomb, when something pops on the screen. It'll just be like her walking through a castle, and then one of the first times you see him, and it cuts to him just standing in the hallway. No movement at all. He's just standing in the hallway, just staring there. And it is one of the creepiest things that I've seen in a horror film.
For sure.
Just period. Kind of, you're just ugh, because it takes you about half a second to realize what it is, kind of thing. But yeah,
Sony, it always got me. 1922, only 22 years into the new century, and that at the end when Orlok, the woman is lying, she's lying, she's dying, and he and then the window comes open, the sun comes through, and he does the whole and the way he vanished like that, and then the puff of smoke and like that. The editing was just so fantastic for the time. That always the trick is so simple now, and I understand it now. But thinking that 1922, how they came up with that, how he, the sun hits him and he vanishes, and it wasn't just like he just like cut, like he was like boom, we cut and then he's gone, but the way he faded out.
Yes.
Like that, I always loved that effect. How it was it was almost like the Thanos snap, where it just, and he just, the sunlight just erased him from existence, and no evidence whatsoever. I thought that was so brilliant the way Murnau put that together.
This is why, when we talk about like some of these old films, like we talked about the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari a little while ago, is these were revolutionary because there was nobody, there's no predecessors. People are figuring out editing. People are literally, okay, how do we do this? And, okay, well, maybe we should try editing it this way. If we do the film this way, maybe we get this effect. And then people just experimented on it, kind of thing. And we get some genius effects like that.
That's something that Danielle,
like the differences between the vampires. Basically, with Stoker and doing Dracula was, the sunlight was harmless but weakened the vampires, and then also the victims, were made into the actual vampires, as opposed to Muranu's Nosferatu. Count Orlok was burned by the sunlight. And then when it came to those type of vampires, they didn't create a new vampire, but just killed their victims instead.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking from your perspective, which I think would be pretty slick, is that if you're imagining you're handling the makeup effects, you're handling that, you're making a vampire. The first vampire
it was more of a monster appearance, more like a more animal-like appearance with the teeth and just it just looked monster-like. It was, and it seemed a lot more simpler. Actually, I take that back. It was a lot harder then, because those teeth were longer. The way that the vampire looked in general, it's just different, because now you can throw some teeth and some blood, like freaking True Blood and all those other kiddish vampire shows, and now they're just like, let's just throw some blood on it, we're good.
It's neat to see them at the forefront. They had to coming up with this stuff for the first time, and going through that process of making this monster, interpreting this, and an example of art imitating life. You go with what you know, and whether it was Murnau, I can't speak to Murnau's beliefs or his worldview. There's not a lot on that, but maybe if he did the full design, if it was fully his interpretation or the people behind it. You go with what you know. You go with the things that you see around you. You play on the fears, which I think speaks to his brilliance. Okay, and if it wasn't for I mean, there was almost a chance where we almost didn't get to see this movie.
Right.
Oh yeah,
it was almost taken away from us completely.
Yeah, kind of thing. It was actually like it came down to court battle, right?
Yeah, it did. It was after the movie got made, because as I mentioned before, it was an unauthorized adaptation. Murnau went ahead with it, and he said, "Fuck it, I'm going to shoot this thing." I'm pretty sure that's not what he said in German, but he was going to do it anyway. And so the movie gets made, and Bram Stoker's estate, or his heirs, then sue to basically stop the thing, because the thing got made, and I think it saw a very small kind of like personal, kind of a small release. It wasn't like a wide release or anything. But the heirs sued the production company, which was they sued Prana Film, and they sued Murnau, and the judge ruled in favor of Stoker's heirs, even though Murnau tried to cover his bases. He changed the Count's name. He changed the appearance of the Count from the book. There was many alterations that he made in order to separate the two. Okay, but the judge didn't see it that way, and he sided with the heirs and demanded, and part of the judgment was every single copy of Nosferatu had to be destroyed. So, and somehow, we don't know how, this is one of those little miracles that came around, somebody had the wherewithal to steal some of them away, to hide them away from their ordered destruction. And it's only that way that someone said, no, this movie is sticking around. They pulled it. We don't know if it was Murnau. We don't know if it was a friend of his or if it was somebody. We don't know. But somebody had the wherewithal to grab that movie and hide it and say, yep, I don't have it. It's gone. And that's the only reason why we know, or why we're able to see what we see today. Now, the most seminal vampire film ever made, the first one ever made, required viewing for anybody in horror, anybody in film, really, okay, to see the things that they did. And just by stroke of luck, a film lover, a horror lover, like our wonderful audience, a horror fan said, no, I'm keeping this. This needs to survive.
And it's
pulled that film aside and said, "Yep, I don't have it. Sorry."
And then there,
boom.
And then there was Bela Lugosi.
Go ahead.
and then Universal's Universal vampire film. Yes.
And you got to think about not only taking that aside, right? So you got 1922, right? So then that film had to survive the whole, Hitler, World War II, carpet bombings and all this other kind of stuff that Allies were doing in Germany at the time. So it had to survive all of this stuff kind of thing. And, and film stock back then is super flammable kind of thing, right? And the fact that it survived.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking almost 100 years. In 2 years, it's 98 years old.
Wow.
March 4th. 98-year-old film. The only film that we've done older than this is Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Okay? And which is literally turned 100 last week. And the brilliance of that, just all the things. Think of all the silent films. Eugene was talking about before, and all of the silent films that we lost in the Universal fire.
Yeah.
Okay? Because what year was that, Eugene? The Great Universal Fire that destroyed virtually everything they had.
It was like they had one in 1924.
Yeah,
and kind of thing, and because a lot of them, they would at the time they would go out to theaters. Theaters would run them, and they sent back to the lot, and then they just store them somewhere. That was it. And it's like, okay, we have a warehouse, and we just toss all the copies in this warehouse. Well, a giant fire broke out, and with film back then being super flammable, it just went up. And yeah, about 80 to 85% of all silent films are gone. Like, we know of their existence based off of scripts and, posters and records and all this other kind of stuff, but can't see them. They're just gone.
Wow.
People's entire film career gone.
That's sad.
Yeah, it's a shame because, Murnau had I think he had a brilliant mind when it came to horror. He had a vision, and the guy behind him who financed the whole thing, Prana Film, because of the lawsuit, this was the only movie they got to make, and it was Prana from I think that's Hindu, the kind of manna from heaven thing, but Prana, the energy of the universe, was the kind of inspiration behind the name, and he wanted to make movies, and this was his first time, and then the lawsuit killed him, and they killed the production company, almost destroyed the film, and virtually ended Murnau's career. So,
Wow.
just this whole this was it was a flash of the pan, and we got some serious amazing stuff there, and luckily it managed to survive to this day. So that's a testament. And of course, it is safe and secure in the I can't remember what year, but I know it was inducted into or it was the National Archives.
Yeah, it's like the National Registry, something like that.
Yeah, the National Registry of important contributions to art and stuff like that. So, but yeah, it's safe and secure now. But yes, if you've never seen it, God, you must see it. You can see it anywhere. It's it's almost 100 years old. It's free. You can see it anywhere like that. But definitely check out Nosferatu. So that brings me to my question, though. However, the fight between Bram Stoker's estate and F.W. Murnau. Dracula or Nosferatu? Let's look at him. Shrek as Count Orlok or Lugosi as Count Dracula? Which one do you dig on? Like, that's my question for the audience. Which is your favorite?
It is tough.
Question.
Yes.
That
Personally, I think Shrek's Nosferatu would beat the pansy ass of Lugosi's Dracula. That's because that fucker pulled no punches. That Nosferatu was no joke.
Yeah,
I was gonna say true, but Dracula has kind of a sexy appeal, though. I mean, we all want the guys from the Vampire Diaries and True Blood. Still, I mean, come on, let's be real, us women out there.
This is true. The cape is sexy, and Nosferatu's wandering around like a homeless bagman. This is very true. But yes, let's see what our audience thinks. Dracula or Nosferatu? Let us know. We'd love to hear what you think. Eugene, what do we got next? I know we're going to the Universal Studios lot.
Oh, yeah. And this is one of the most iconic horror movies out there. Especially The Creature. Like, we've all seen it. Maybe one of the most famous definitely one of the most famous creatures in horror, right? And so we're going to released March 5th, 1954, and that is Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh, fucking love this movie.
The movie is amazing, right? Amazing. It is directed by Jack Arnold, right? Starring Richard Colson, Julian Adams, Richard Denning, and Antonio Moreno. And it's basically what ends up happening is you have remnants of a mysterious animal, right, in the jungle, right, in South America, and scientists are going in and they're investigating. They're trying to figure out what this creature is, kind of thing. And it kind of plays off the fact of, in terms of like the 1950s, of the atomic era film, because you're starting to see more of these creature films start coming out after the atomic bomb. So people started playing around with the idea of radiation and all this other kind of stuff, and what creatures are out there. Not all creatures obviously based off of the atomic bomb or anything like that, but people started playing around with the idea, and so out of all these creature films that come out in the 1950s, kind of thing, the Creature from Black Lagoon is probably the best one.
The Universals, yeah,
definitely,
very well done.
Yeah. Absolutely. The thing is, like, we all know what the creature looks like.
It's iconic.
We all do. And so it's a phenomenal movie, has some great scary moments, and it actually has, like, a ton of practical effects that are just amazing.
Yeah, so, like, when it came to, like, creating the Gilman, Millie St. Patrick actually created the design for the creature. But the makeup artist, George Hamilton, actually claimed that the Gilman was his creation and then demanded her to be removed from the credits completely.
Damn.
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah, there were two
Damn.
suits that were actually made for two different actors playing the Gilman, one for land and one actually for the water. which is pretty cool and pretty interesting. And then the masks, the actors actually had trouble seeing through the eye holes because they were so jacked up, so it cut off their peripheral vision completely.
That explains the story that Chapman, Ben Chapman, who I think played him on Land, played the Gilman on Land, who's the actor, Julia Adams. He cracked her head on one of the rocks, on like one of the rock walls in one of the scenes as he was carrying her.
Well, that explains it.
See where the wall was, and I saw this picture, and it's so weird because she's sitting down and she's got her eyes closed, and she's just got this look of this like, yes, I am a star. I'm like this. I'm trying not to lose my shit, and like there's a first aid dude who's got a bandage on her head, who's like he's trying to just do whatever, but he's got his hand on her head. And everybody's around her, including Chapman, who is still in full costume, mask on, everything, just kind of looking down like, oh shit, what did I do? Because it was sizable, she went head first into that rock wall as he was carrying her. So that explains that, because they couldn't see shit when they were wearing the damn mask.
Yep.
Damn.
So it's interesting that you bring that up. And I can't even imagine, it's the idea that it's being so cool, being in that suit. And I think the guy who was doing it, fucking Rico Browning, being a water stuntman himself, having that suit on and getting to be that monster underwater, I love the underwater shots of the movie, how they captured those, so fucking cool. But I do know that and probably a lot of people might not know this, but the guy who created the whole thing, Jack Arnold, came up with the idea, and he's the one who wrote the treatment, and it went on to another screenwriter, to Harry Essex and Arthur Ross. But it was, if I remember correctly, it was William Allen. Okay, he was one of the producers. He's the one who came up with the treatment. Yeah, but make sure I got my names right. William Allen actually got the idea in 1941, because he was doing the thing. He's a producer, so I think he was at a dinner party for Citizen Kane at the time, and this was in 1941. And he was in a conversation with a bunch of people, and there was another individual, I think it was Gabriel Figueroa, told him a story, this legend of fishmen in the Amazon. Okay, and it literally was just a story you hear because Figueroa was a Mexican cinematographer, and so this is just an industry kind of mixer for the movie Citizen Kane. That's all this was, and that people are just shooting the shit and just talking like we're doing. And he tells him this story. So Holland hears this story about fishmen in the Amazon basin, okay, and he carries that away and is like, "What the fuck?" Probably not what he said, but he gave him thinking. And so he wrote a treatment. It was like, this has got to be written down, and then he saw another angle because Olin was a huge fan of Beauty and the Beast.
Wow.
And he saw a Beauty and the Beast kind of story and he wrote, and then he kind of married the two and wrote that treatment and passed that along. And that was in 1941, 1954, Creature from the Black Lagoon gets made. From a story told over, just bullshitting at a Hollywood mixer. You never know what you can come up with.
And see, it's crazy when it's just like, like you get little nuggets, little stories like that, where it's just like, yeah, we're just sitting there just chatting, and that thing just stuck in my head, because you never really know when inspiration is going to strike you. Where or how it's going to come from, kind of thing. People come with the weirdest ideas, like, just throwing something together, and all of a sudden it's like,
yeah.
I need to do that. I need to do this real quick. Like, it was like Mary Shelley's like Frankenstein, where her and a bunch of people were hanging out. She had to come up with a horror story.
I've been in that situation too, especially with makeup. Like, I'll go to a photo shoot and a photographer will be like, "Well, what was your plan?" And I said, "Well, I have like a little bit of a plan, but I really just kind of get inspired as I'm going throughout the look, and I just keep adding and adding. And I'm like, okay, hold on, I need to add this too."
Yeah,
such really really cool stuff.
It really is, and speaking with that, it's I've heard one of my favorite musicians, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, who they talk about how when it comes with art, right, art will tell you what it needs. You just have to listen.
For sure. Wise words.
Yeah, so it's just like, oh, it needs this, it needs this, it needs this, it needs this, and then there you go. You create something, kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, this is the underwater. To me, the underwater shots make it's super impressive, right? The cinematography, getting that giant film camera underwater.
I mean, how?
Could not have been easy. Yeah, we're talking, today cameras are, they're super small, they can be handheld and stuff like that. You're talking about a film camera in 1954.
Wow.
The thing's like the size of a person. Then you got to put it underwater and then shoot it and choreograph it and all that other kind of, and you got to light it.
And when right?
So,
I think
for
the black
sure
and white helped to an extent.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
It was
and
definitely
I almost
something.
feel like with the body suit, like how they like painted on it, I almost wonder if they used acrylic paint, which is actually very bad for you, by the way. But I'm almost wondering, like, I don't know exactly what products she had used, but I almost feel like looking at like some reference photos of her and how she was painting on his suit, I almost feel like she was using some kind of like harsh paint, which now these days is a big no-no for makeup artists.
Oh, I totally agree, because I mean they did that. Well, of course we get to see all the cool fun, the fucked up mistakes they used to make back then. I mean, heck, it was the green paint, the green copper based paint they used for the Wicked Witch in the
Yes.
Witch of the West in Wizard of Oz.
Mm-hmm.
That hospitalized
That's insane.
her. Because it was like this copper based acrylic paint because it was green. And to get the grain color, they used copper, and it almost, I think it made her like super sick. Because painting her grain like that, and then, and I think it messed up her vision and stuff like that. And then of course the guy who played, I can't remember his name, but the gentleman who played the first Tin Man, because the Tin Man that we got in the movie was not the
That's
original.
true. Yes,
White
I've heard
cast.
that.
Yeah, because the silver alloy paint or whatever they used on him put him in the hospital because his kidneys failed.
Oh my god, that's brutal. That should be a horror movie in itself, right there.
Yes, the production of 1940s, 1950s movies was
For
scarier than
real.
the movies themselves.
There was one movie, it came back it's from the silent era, and it had a scene where they had to dump, and it was like tens of thousands of gallons of water, and it was like flooding like this whole set kind of thing, right? And it had a bunch of extras and something like that, some like biblical film, right? And so you get your 300-400 extras and all this other kind of stuff, and they went and they dumped the water and all this other kind of stuff, and 4 or 5 people drowned and died on set.
Wow.
Oh my god!
Right, and when they filmed it all stuff, that, and the director was like, "That's good, we'll keep it," and just went on, like went about his day.
Wow.
That's like hearing about the Twilight Zone the movie.
Oh,
The accident,
yeah, the helicopter.
The helicopter accident, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is so... Man, be safe. All of our listeners who are filmmakers, be safe. I know that we talk up guerrilla filmmaking. I know that some of our favorites do it. I know Matthew Mark Hunter does guerrilla filmmaking. I know that Lloyd Kaufman is a big guerrilla filmmaker. And I know Billy Pond loves guerrilla filmmaking. I've done guerrilla filmmaking, but please, be safe out there. Have your permits if you can get them. Plan your shit out. Don't get people killed. Please don't.
No shot is worth it.
No shot is worth your life.
And so now
I know it's exciting. It's exciting to go on a property that you're not supposed to be on and shoot shit. And you're like, I'm making a movie. Like those guys, I think those filmmakers who filmed it did an entire movie inside an IKEA.
Wow.
Yeah, they went in. They went in and IKEA they didn't know. So they went in and they literally shot their movie in IKEA using their pre-staged, the kind of rooms and shit that they have all over the place.
Oh,
Those
wow.
were their sets.
Damn.
and so they shot the entire movie in the IKEA. Yes. Like, this is an excellent room.
Oh my
we should shoot in this room.
We'll make it
And then you have
work.
these kids running over in the set. What's this? Like, get the hell out of my shot, kid.
Exactly.
We'll keep it.
But but Creatures of the Black Lagoon, that was the start of a trilogy, right? Because Universal was big on the trilogy.
Oh yeah, so you got the Creature from the Black Lagoon, which obviously was really successful in 1954. The next one you had was Revenge of the Creature, 1955. Like right off the bat,
Wow.
fast turnaround. And then in 1956 you get The Creature Walks Among Us.
Oh, I remember Revenge of the Creature because they shot that in 3D, trying to capitalize on the 3D trend. Like, I remember that shit. And then the third one was shot in 2D because they realized 3D wasn't coming back.
No.
Well, wasn't coming back yet.
They keep trying with 3D. And because 3D has this it's surge, and then people's like, no, this is shit, and stops, and then it has a surge because you remember like Jaws 3D, which was like late 80s.
Oh, don't
Lord.
remind me. Don't remind me.
And then they try to come back again, with Avatar and stuff like that. Which James Cameron obviously he knocked his technology out of the park, but then other people try to
Right.
copy it.
Just didn't look right.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, the dude invented a camera.
That's insane.
To shoot
He's just a
that movie.
genius.
Like, it's like Cameron's like, okay, we're gonna shoot this movie, and it does. Okay, what I need to shoot it doesn't exist. Fuck it, we're gonna make it.
We're just
Fuck it.
Invented a fucking camera. Fuck it, we'll do it ourselves. Like, holy shit, dude, sure, go ahead, go ahead and innovate the industry. Go ahead, Cameron, you do that. We'll catch you when you get back from your Marianas Trench, retreat.
Good God.
that James Cameron is somebody, he doesn't accept failure. He's like, the technology doesn't exist. Well, then make the technology. I can't. Well, then fine, I can.
I think we're a little bit obsessive with James Cameron on this episode.
The dude is, he's Elon Musk, Nikola Tesla,
Yes.
NASA, all rolled into one. Dude's unstoppable. The fucking just the things I know he's an atrocious monster to work for, as everyone who has ever worked with him has said. But you can't argue that what he puts out is meticulous. It pushes boundaries. It reinvents the genre on occasion. It breaks records. It sets milestones. The dude is absolute genius.
Yeah.
Can't shit on somebody for the technology doesn't exist. Fine, we're gonna make the technology.
And you know what? He did it.
Then everybody can. And then of course now he built the camera. He made a camera. He invented it so that everybody else can go and use it. So
Exactly. But anyways, getting back, right. So actually, you know what? We want to actually know from the audience, what is your actually favorite part of the trilogy? Was it the original Creature from the Black Lagoon, which I love, by the way, or Revenge of the Creature, or The Creature Walks Among Us, which, by the way, Browning did the Gill work on all three of those for the Gill Man.
Interesting.
nice.
Hey, you got one guy, he works, right? He does a job, you keep him.
Oh hell yeah.
Kind of thing.
I personally dug the third one. I liked Revenge of the Creature. The Creature Walks Among Us. I loved that one. Just because it was bigger and it was more ambitious, and they didn't try to keep it. It felt like they were expanding the world and allowing more to come into play instead of just keeping it like it's located at the lagoon. So it's kind of an insulated story. No, it made the world feel bigger, and that this was a part of the real world. I loved the feeling of that. That yes, this is not just some faraway place where you've encountered a monster and that's the only place you're going to encounter it. It's like, no, this is the world. It's in the world, and I loved how they did that, how they played with that.
And see, maybe it's because of the order that I saw them in, right? Because I actually saw The Creature Walks Among Us first, and then I saw The Creature of Black Lagoon.
Okay.
So, The Creature of Black Lagoon felt a little bit more intimate and personal kind of thing for it. So, it came on TV that order, so... That's how I saw it.
So are you guys ready to talk about our next awesome movie that I like?
Yes.
Oh yes, we are.
All
What do
right.
we
Oh
got?
yes.
I do
Okay,
like
Neil's
this
excited
one.
about this one.
So this is actually called Maniac, and this came out March 6th of 1980, actually. And it was directed by William Lustig and written by Joe Spinell, and then also C.A. Rosenberg. So they basically wrote this together. The cast includes Joe Spinell, Caroline Munro, Abigail Clayton, and then Kelly Piper. And so basically, this is a classic 80s slasher film. Joe Spinell actually plays Frank Zito, who is an Italian-American serial killer residing in New York City who murders and scalps young women. Mwah.
Whoa.
Such a
For
brutal
sure.
fucking movie.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You know, you want to talk about some of those, you know, the 80 slashers that got really creative and really gory with skills.
Oh yeah, this is a classic.
Well, the guy behind it, Lustig. I mean, of course, you know, he's known for this type of for this type of film. You know, I think Vigilante, the Maniac cop films, Uncle Sam. This kind of where his genre is exploitation, and this was definitely on the other end. I know that Maniac got caught up in the video nasty scare, same as like Don't Answer the Phone and other similar films that were high on the violence, the gore, the misogynistic tones, violence, shit like that, and. What drew me to it, his style, is that Lustig has got a very interesting background as far as a filmmaker goes. I'll just say that.
Yeah. Interesting to say. Interesting to say the least.
Okay, because before he did Maniac in the late 70s, I'll just say his two movies, Hot Honey and The Violation of Claudia, take from those titles what you will.
So clearly a family film
my
then,
right? At a select theater, a very select theater near you, but you can see the tones of that because you shoot those kinds of films in a particular way, and you can see the effects of that kind of inspiration. You can see that in Maniac a lot. It's very grindhouse. It's very grimy. It's very gritty, and I love it. Which, in a sense, in my eyes, kind of made it was more realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because anybody who's I'm just going to say the word. It's not like I'm risking getting demonetized. Anybody who's watched porn, okay, there is a specific visual style that you shoot that in. And fuck, I'm sounding like a goddamn connoisseur. I'm not. But I mean, I'm not going to deny I've watched it. But there is, from a filmmaking perspective, you do not shoot porn the same way that you shoot a fictional story, like where you're shooting like a movie. Okay, you just don't. But you do have to. But there is a realism effect because you are watching two people. They're not. They're actors, but really more they're models and they're fucking. But it's different from shooting a movie. You can see that effect. So he literally shot this movie about this killer, this scalping, misogynistic psychopath, in almost a porn style, lingering on certain effects. The camera, a lot of stationary.
So basically, if you're a feminist,
okay,
you're not going to like this movie.
Absolutely fucking not. And not to mention Spinell. I mean, talented guy. Oh my god, he's gross.
Yeah.
And so you got this gross dude who's like, Danielle, what the fuck did fucking Great Value Ron Jeremy looking cat?
Oh yeah, porn stash and all.
Okay. Yeah, like Andy like a bad version of Andy Kaufman's alter ego.
They couldn't pick somebody at least like good looking to be like this jackass kind of killer.
Well, I say that's and it's inspiring because I think obviously it was written the damn thing was written by Spinell, okay, and so I think he saw himself in that role, and Lustig saw it as a chance to make it more real, Like this is
Right.
this is not some heartthrob. This isn't Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, where Michael Rooker looks like a fucking champ. No, this is just some dude that you would pass on the street. You wouldn't even give him two thoughts. In fact, you'd just be whatever, just pass him on the street. And this fucker's running around scalping women and nailing their scalps to mannequins.
I
in
mean,
his
it's pretty realistic. I mean, if you think about it, this is a good movie that actually shows what can happen to women in New York City after dark.
It's
Yeah.
There's a cautionary tale to it, but like I was saying, I was to finish my thought. What drew me into it was Lustig's guerrilla style, because the budget on this fucking thing was so goddamn low that they had no permit. They could not afford permits, and they were pretty much just running around shooting, hoping they wouldn't get caught. And it's funny because Tom Savini was in this film, and Lustig took a scene that was kind of inspired by the Son of Sam killings, the David Berkowitz murders, where Berkowitz would go up people in cars and you'd shoot them. And there's a scene when Spinell's character, when Frank Zito is the guy's name, when Frank pops this guy in the head with a shotgun. Okay, and that character was played by Tom Savini. And Tom Savini got the role because he was doing makeup effects on the film, and he already had a cast, like a mold of his own head. Okay, and so they were like, "Oh, you already have a head made, and it's you? Okay, great, you're in the movie, so play this character." Holy shit! And so it's like, okay, fantastic. So they set it up, and they take the plastic head and they make it. Tom Savini makes it look like himself. And anyway, they fill it full of like food and blood and all kinds of grossness. And just to show how low budget this thing was, Tom Savini used live ammunition to blow this head apart. And waiting in the wings after they shot the scene. Boom, no permits, totally illegal, firing guns on the street, okay? Tom Savini blows this thing's head apart, and then they immediately turn, and he throws the gun into the trunk of a waiting car, driven by a production assistant, who then drives off to make sure that if the cops showed up, they didn't get nailed.
It doesn't get more guerrilla than that.
The guerrilla stylings of a porn director, yes. I swear to God, it's going to be my goddamn autobiography.
You realize you can never run for president now just because you said that phrase.
I fucked up. But yeah, you got to admit, as gruesome, as brutal as this film was, you could tell a lot of love went into making it. Spinell relished that role. Lustig shot that movie, and everything he did, you could tell these guys wanted to make a movie. They wanted to make it their fucking way, and nobody was going to tell them no. Yes. More power to them.
And we talk about a lot of greats that are like that too. Like the Sam Raimis and the Kevin Smiths and stuff like that, who are like, what, I'm just going to make this film. It's going to get done. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's what you got to do. You get it done. We were talking about earlier with the gorilla. Remember, no shot is worth your life, but as long as there's no danger involved, you get the shot, you get it done, and that's it. You make history. Now, one thing is you had this one which came out in 1980. There's actually a remake.
What?
That came out.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, with Elijah Wood. Yeah.
See, there's a little bit of heartthrob in that. Just a little bit. In this one. Just a little bit.
Well, he's a little bit taller than some of his other roles. So, that's kind of with Elijah Wood, that works.
Oh, Frodo. Boil me, mash me, stick me in a stew.
But I'll tell you, Elijah Wood can play a creeper. Like in,
what's that one movie? Sin City. Yes.
Sin City, already, yeah.
Creeper.
Yeah.
When he sawing his legs off, and it's like he never screamed. He just sat there.
It's kind of bad. You're kind of a badass though for that. At the same time, like you could take that like a champ.
I think what would play. I think, in my honest opinion, the remake. I mean, Alexandre AJ was behind this thing, and the dude is fantastic. I've loved everything he's written and everything he's done, but the fact that they chose to only show Elijah's face in reflection, and because nowadays creating that gritty style, that gritty grindhouse underground feel is actually quite difficult. Because that was the product, that was the film they were using then, that was the cameras they were using then. They lent themselves to that look. Nowadays, things are slick, they're digital. We move fast, we save money, and trying to recreate that is actually hard. If you talk about the grindhouse films by Rodriguez and Tarantino, Death Proof, and Planet Terror, those films were actually difficult to make because they were shot on film. Just to get that, They wanted that look. So these guys are authentic. Rodriguez is authentic, and so is Tarantino. If they're going to shoot something 70s style, you can guarantee they're using that kind of equipment to get that look. And they weren't able to do that I don't think they were willing. They wanted to spend the money to do this with the remake. So, by capturing, those creepy ass blue eyes. And you only ever see him in his own reflection. So you'll see him in the reflection. He's hiding behind a car. And you catch his reflection in the side view mirror. Or the bumper of the car. Or the rear view mirror of the car when he's driving away. Or when he's looking at himself in the mirror. You only see these moments, so it puts you in his shoes. And we can't go grindhouse, so we're going to stick the viewer in the killer's shoes. You're going to see everything from his point of view. Including the murders. And the skeleton,
which is a really interesting angle to go, because in a lot of horror movies you'll get the POV of looking through the woods and you see the teenagers, whatever, and you can build tension that way. But then it always cuts back to like third person, and this film is like, if you want to know what it feels like to be a serial killer. This is what it feels like. Stalking your victim, selecting your victim, and then you're, throwing them on the ground, bashing their head in, scalping them, all the different things. Those brutal moments that honestly serial killers
You're basically
live
being
for.
taught how to be a serial killer.
Yeah.
Dude, when his victims are looking dead in the camera, right at you, even I was kind of unsettled by that. I was just kind of, wow, it feels very dirty, and I think that's what they were going for. Well done, props to them for coming at it from that direction. But it's definitely not for the squeamish, definitely not for the feminist. It's a highly misogynistic film, brutally violent. So, but hey, if you dig that kind of gore and violence, go. I say go for it. It's it's a performance not to be missed. Elijah Wood was.
Well, we
really
should ask the
fun.
audience what they think: original or remake.
Oh, it's so
See,
tough.
to me, they both have the merits, because with the original, I like that grindhouse feel.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of it has to do with, the technology and stuff like that, but I like that grindhouse feel because, like, they both feel real in different ways, because grindhouse, the grindhouse style feels like a snuff film kind of thing. It feels like something like you pick up in a video cassette bin at some sketchy video market and you put it in your That's what it feels like. That's what, like, when I think grindhouse films, that's how I imagine that. Some tape that you get that you weren't supposed to. You put it in your VCR kind of thing. But in the remake, you get that first person perspective. You get that, like, that brutal kill. It just doesn't cut away. It doesn't hide. You're looking into the eyes of your victim that you don't get in almost any other
agree.
film. So, it's a toss-up.
Nice.
It is.
Whew. Rough stuff.
Yeah. So I don't know how to segue into our next segment.
Oh my god.
Well, we'll say this. We do have a few birthdays this week. We have a couple of birthdays. The first birthday is born March 1st, 1978. Happy birthday to Jensen Ackles.
Woo! Happy birthday!
Yes, star of Supernatural and My Bloody Valentine 3D.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had some what was it? What's the running gag in Supernatural? Fucking soap opera star. I can't remember what show he was on, but also in Smallville, several other projects. But right now, concluding production on the final season of Supernatural.
Wow.
15 years
Jeez.
they've been on that show.
That's insane.
Longest running show on CW. Yeah, longest running show in CW history. 15 years they've been running Supernatural. And while we know that Jared Padalecki is moving on to the Walker Texas Ranger reboot, we don't know what Jensen's going to be up to. We know he's got a family. You know, he lives here in Texas. He's got his brewery, and I think he co-owns a bar in Austin with Jared Padalecki, and I think the brewery is also there as well. They started a brewery. So he's got a lot of other stuff going on, but we haven't heard what's going to be happening with him.
Wow.
I wouldn't blame him for taking a break. Just kind of thing. But, I hope he keeps, start maybe going to a few more movies and stuff like that. Because I know when you're shooting a series like that and you're shooting for 8 to 10 months a year kind of thing, it's hard to do other parts because of the rigorous filming schedule that they have. So, maybe a couple passion projects that he has, or maybe a couple people he's talking to, try to get a couple more movies made. I think that would be kind of awesome.
I think he's definitely in a position where he could write his own ticket.
Oh, yeah. If he wanted to make a movie, it would get made. Like somebody will pick it up. Kind of thing. Looking at you, Blumhouse, A24, just keep that out there.
Come on, Legion M. Come up with something for our boy Jensen.
Yes. Just a few more horror credits. That will be kind of nice, kind of thing.
Well, we'll see what happens. So, happy birthday to Jensen Ackles.
Happy birthday,
Happy
Jensen.
birthday.
And
who do we have next?
So we got I don't know if he's a guilty pleasure favorite director or he does good stuff. And he has made probably like my favorite video game movie of all time kind of thing. But born March 4th, 1965, Paul W.S. Anderson. And I'm just going to start with Mortal Kombat! I was 10 when that movie came out. And I was a huge fan of the video game. I played Mortal Kombat 2 like all the time on it was like Super NES or some, Super NES. And I remember sitting in the theater with me and some of my friends, and all of a sudden the fire hit the screen, and it's just Mortal Kombat, dun, 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 and that music kicked in, and I was like, this is everything I've like imagined and more.
It's great.
This is the best moment of my life.
Oh, this is the cat who single-handedly proved that video game movies can actually make money.
Yes.
Yes, because Mortal Kombat. I think it was his second film after Shopping, but it was his first film, or first video game adaptation, and that pretty much sets the bar. And then after two sci-fi films, Event Horizon and Soldier with Kurt Russell. But Event Horizon, a horror movie that we'll be talking about here, pretty soon, that came out in 1997. I love that.
That movie's good. That movie's very underrated.
Really good. I can't believe it. That nobody dug that movie. But it's kind of like The Thing. When The Thing came out, nobody liked The Thing. Critics shit on it. Nobody went to go see it. E.T. had just come out I think a week before it, or maybe a month before it. So people were not like, oh, we don't want to see evil aliens and shit like that. So, but The Thing, arguably one of the greatest horror films ever made. But it's the same kind of thing. He had that kind of success, and then of course we all know him for Resident Evil.
Mm-hmm. Yes. 7
films in the Resident Evil franchise. It's where he met his wife, Mila Jovovich.
Mm-hmm.
But he also did the Alien vs. Predator series.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. He did the first one. Yeah, first one. Kind of thing, which I actually really enjoy. I know there were a couple of things that he was upset about it because with the studio, the original cut on it was like 2 hours, and the studio made him cut it down to 90 minutes. Kind of thing. So at the very end, he had to cut 30 minutes out of the movie. So I know he was very upset about it. But I think even I would love to see the additional 30 minutes that was cut out. But I still enjoyed that movie.
For sure.
He's got another one coming out because he's so big on the video game adaptations. He's doing a video game. He's doing a film based on the Capcom series. I think it's Capcom. Yeah, Monster Hunter.
Really?
And he's doing a live action film of that that's coming out this year, I think, and of course starring his wife, but it's also got Ron Perlman and Tony Jay in it, or Tony Jaa, I think is how you pronounce his name.
Oh, I love Tony Jaa. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and so that's coming out this year. So he's still going strong. Good shit. I think Pompeii was probably not his best.
Yeah, I think Pompeii. Everybody has a miss, kind of thing. But obviously, with Mortal Kombat, with Resident Evil, he also did the first Death Race with Jason Statham.
Oh, that's right.
Kind of
He
thing.
retackled the Death Race.
Yeah,
the Death Race series.
And because he hasn't directed every Resident Evil movie, but he did obviously the first one. He did Afterlife, Retribution, and then the final chapter. And the ones he directed tend to be better than the ones he didn't, like Resident Evil 3.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think he would. I could see the lack of his presence in the second one, in Apocalypse.
Yeah.
That his presence would have been much better on that one.
Yeah, I still like Apocalypse just because, I love Jill Valentine. But, yeah, it would have been even better if he was on it.
But why Sienna Gilroy? Why? She can't fucking act.
You know what? I saw it when I was like 13 or something like that, and I was a huge fan of the video games also, so I got to see my favorite character on the screen, and it just stuck. It's nostalgia. I have no basis of why now, but I love it. I
could not get over like this. That poor girl cannot fucking act for shit. The best thing, I'm sorry, she's hot, yes, but she can't. The best thing she's ever been in was Love Actually, and she was in that for like 45 seconds.
I forgot she was in that movie.
Yeah, she was the sick chick in bed who was cheating on one of the main. Who was cheating on what's that British actor? What's that British actor's name? So fucking. But yeah, she was in there for like 45 seconds, and she hurls a bunch of
I love how you guys are
insults
totally
at her.
off subject of like the horror genre.
Yes, I know. It's like, it happens. But yes, but he's right. Yeah, Paul W.S. Anderson, freaking thank you so much for bringing video games to big screen and not giving us more Super Mario Brothers or Double Dragon or
Alone in the Dark or
Alone in the Dark, shit like this. Yes, Paul W.S. Anderson, the polar fucking opposite of you.
Yes, the good version, the one who makes good movies. So happy birthday,
Happy
Paul.
birthday.
Happy birthday,
And so
Paul.
let's also, last but not least, let's pay our respects to Gunnar Hansen, the amazing Leatherface. Basically, he died November 7th, 2015, so we want to pay our respects. His birthday was March 4th, 1947.
Yeah.
Forever missed.
It's amazing that he took on the role of Leatherface like on a whim.
That's amazing. He's just wasn't he just an everyday guy? He didn't really do, yeah.
Yeah, just like, he was, I think he's born in Iceland, immigrated here, and I think he was studying, Scandinavian studies, and just kind of like living his life, just and he was, I think he lived in Maine, and then and then he was here in Texas. He came to live in Texas, and went to University of Texas at Austin, and then was majoring in English, mathematics, and Scandinavian studies, and he was out of school. And he was working as a bar bouncer because the cat was big. Okay, Iceland, Viking. Mm-hmm. And on a whim, they're shooting this movie, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They're shooting this movie in Austin. So he's like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go audition. I want to try to check this out." And so
that's
was
amazing.
Born Leatherface.
To be like so iconic like that out of like nowhere.
I think what's really slick is because he did a movie after that. Called The Demon Lover. That came out in 1977. It was 3 years after, and he had such a. I remember reading he had such a bad experience on that movie that he basically quit.
Wow.
And so he didn't come back to films until 1988. But he quit, and in the time period that he had left film, he was offered a role in Wes Craven's The Hills Have Eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And he flatly turned it down. He was like, no, not interested. So he pretty much just went back to his normal life and was just writing and doing his thing until 1988. I guess he got the calling back, and he was in Hollywood Chainsaw.
Oh, good God!
That's an awesome title. You know what you're getting into with that title.
I can't wait till we talk about it on this fucking podcast. It's going to be sweet. But yeah, he didn't turn out a lot of films. I think over the course of his career, he only did 25, 26. So not a lot, but still, he gave birth to the legend.
Yeah, that's just, I mean, it's insane on how quick like history can be made. Like that's it. Just like I'm going out there, and I'm really, really glad that he got back into it, because like his last film was a Death House, where he's like, I want to get every iconic like horror villain, and I want to put them in like one movie. And when you're talking about Tony Todd and Bill Moseley and Kane Hodder and Dee Wallace, and the list just goes on the people who are in this film.
Yeah, I realized he made the Expendables of horror legends.
Yes, that's what he did.
Yes, he did. That man made the horror Expendables. And you gotta love a guy who gives Kane Hodder the line, I will fuck you in hell.
Oh my God.
Because only Kane Hodder could deliver that line. We gotta love Gunner. The dude had a grasp of the genre. I think few do. That I think only horror icons have.
Yeah, he's somebody, when we talk about like a natural, that's what he is. He's a natural that people go to film school or people go to acting school for years to get to his natural understanding of horror.
Did you know to become Leatherface, he studied for like a few weeks, he spent time with and studied special needs kids.
Really?
Yeah. That was part of what he took into the character itself, because the mannerisms, the physical mannerisms, and kind of like tics that special needs kids have, and he incorporated that into his performance to really solidify Leatherface. Yeah,
that's incredible.
Such a an amazing actor and inspired, and everything he's done, whether it was Schlock or Grindhouse or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre or, Sexploitation, who cares? The dude loved it, and I'm glad, even though he left, I'm glad he came back and gave us what he had. He wrote a lot of the stuff that he made, so it's really fucking cool.
Yeah, he came back on his terms.
Yes, he
did.
And
that was what was important, kind of thing. So, Gunner, we will miss you.
Gone, but not forgotten.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right. Well, that closes out another episode of Week in Horror. I want to thank Danielle so much for coming out and covering for Alex. This has been amazing. Loved getting your take from the makeups and effects side. The insights you kind of brought to it are really, really slick. I think the listeners will really enjoy that. I look forward to having you.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for having me.
Oh, always, always. All right, and as always, thank you to our listeners. Thank you so much. We could not do this without you. It's your constant support that helps keep this channel, or keep this show growing and adding new things like our Week in Horror After Dark or our Week in Horror Bloodbath debates. Hopefully one day we'll be set in the studio. We'll get to do really cool stuff, maybe some visual stuff and live podcasts at conventions. We have big goals, big dreams for this, and the only reason we have those dreams is because of y'all. So we appreciate that. Thank you so much. As always, any feedback, comments, questions, anything you have, hit us up at weekinhorror@gmail.com. You can find us at any one of your locations where you love podcasts: Anchor, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google, Apple. Does not matter. We are there. Recently on CastBox, and check us out. If you like it, subscribe. Hit us up. If you really, really dig us, hit us up on patreon.com. Support us. Your support keeps us going, keeps us adding new shit, keeps us bringing in special guests like Rebecca Kennedy or Billy Pond, Matthew Mark Hunter, or our new one who I'm not going to spoil yet. Haha. But we have them coming. We have them lined up. Your support helps make that happen. Also, you subscribe to us on Patreon. You get access to our Bloodbath debates. You get access to our After Dark, which is our intimate time. I'm going to say intimate time with our special guests. But absolutely, check out our Bloodbath debates where we pit horror icons against each other to fight to the death. It's really, really cool shit. And as always, get your daily splatter, your little bit of horror information every single day to your Facebook feed or your Twitter feed, facebook.com/weekinhorror or twitter.com/weekinhorror. You can follow us there. As always, I am JL.
I'm Eugene.
And I'm Danielle.
Thank you so much, and we will see you next week.